Good morning, students. Welcome to BCP 150S. My name is Richard Smuts. I am one of the lecturers for groups G and H. Mr. Pretorius is A, D, E, and G, and Ms. Mlochwa is groups B and C. Covering week 1 today. We are just doing an introduction and chapter 1. The keynotes of the course will cover everything that you need to do. I am just going to briefly go through it. I do understand you guys must be feeling a bit overloaded with all of the teaching and learning that's happening on the weekends and so on. We are following a timetable, so please make sure that you are registered in the correct group on WhatsApp and that you have the correct timetable. We will be placing these videos on WhatsApp. We will be doing Zoom sessions where we can chat to each other. So please download Zoom to your phone. It's really easy to use and you can hear and listen to the lecturer. And we will be posting the videos on WhatsApp. Week 1 we worked mostly on WhatsApp, as the survey explained that many of the students prefer both WhatsApp and Blackboard. We are using Zoom for our face-to-face meetings because it takes the least bandwidth. The way classes will be working, even if you are late and you are following back, you will be able to find the work placed on Blackboard and in the WhatsApp groups. However, once you join a WhatsApp group, you will not be able to see the previous work. You will need access to Blackboard. We do have a textbook. The textbook is called MIS9. It is available online for purchase from the link we have posted. Each week we will cover one chapter per lesson, so that is 2 chapters per week. So for example, week 1 we will do chapter 1 and 2, week 2 we will do 3 and 4. Each lesson is 4 steps. We have given you guys a weekly planner with the page numbers to read in the textbooks, and we'll explain the outcomes for each lesson. Go through the slides. I know there are very many of them. You read as best you can. If you're unsure, please refer to the textbook, or you can even Google the terms. There is not, in many of the questions, there is not one specific answer. There is an explanation, and Google is a highly useful resource. At the end of each class, we would, on Blackboard and posted on WhatsApp, is the theory test for each chapter. I would like you to attempt that. You do not need to hand it in. It is merely for practice and to prepare yourself for the examination. After you've attempted the work, we will be handing out model answers for you to review. We spoke on WhatsApp about the content, but we do not wish to overload you as these are online lessons. So please follow the 4 steps above in each lesson. You may ask questions in this class, any class. If you ask questions on the weekend, we may not respond immediately, but we will get back to you when we are available. During the week, especially on the day that you have the lesson, I am available all day to answer your questions via WhatsApp. You are also welcome to WhatsApp me on the side if you have questions that you do not wish to ask on the group. I'm posting 3 documents today for week 1. Please remember, go and have a look on the chat. If you are on the chat, you will always find the documents there. There are 11 topics for week 1. Fortunately for week 2 and week 3, there are only 8 topics. We are briefly going to go through the topics from number 1 to number 11. Basically, what we are dealing with in the lesson today is the common applications of computers and information systems. When we say an information system, we are speaking of a collection of computers and software and hardware that all work together to perform a function. If you do not have a textbook, please try to get one. It will assist you greatly. The first thing we are looking at is the definition of management information systems. It's known as an MIS, and it's, as I explained already, hardware, software, data, processes, and human elements that actually produce useful information for decision-making purposes. So if we look carefully here, it is comprised of several components. It's an organized integration of hardware, software, data, processes, and the humans involved. And together, all of that will produce information for decision-making purposes. Explain the difference between computer literacy and information literacy. Computer literacy is basically how to use a computer as we do in our daily lives. Information literacy is understanding how to work with information and the MIS we spoke above. So it is the human working with the MIS. Define transaction processing systems. These are also known as a TPS, so please be aware to learn the acronyms. We may ask you in an exam question or a test question just what is a TPS, or to define a TPS. We may not always say transaction processing systems. An example is using a credit card at an ATM, and all the computers, software, hardware, and people behind these scenes make up a transaction processing system. So you would go to an ATM, you would put in your card, you would run what we call a transaction, and you would receive your money, and that is effectively the software and hardware and people behind that is a TPS. Define a management information system. Management information systems are used to give companies competitive advantage. So within this course, not only are we explaining the hardware, we are explaining what we are using the hardware, software, and human element for. And it generally comes down to one thing, and that is using a computer to gain competitive advantage in business. So an MIS, or Management Information System, comprises hardware, software that serves at the backbone of an organization. What do we use it for? We include a database where we will gather data, we will analyze the information, and we will report the data to managers to aid them in decision making. An example of decision making, we have 4 cellular operators in this country. It is Telkom, Vodacom, MTN, and Cell C. They will all use an MIS to have a look at what their competitors are doing, whether the sales figures are up to scratch, what happened in the past, to predict the future, and enable day-to-day decision making. The 4 major components of an information system, which is known as an IS. So we're not looking at a management information system, we are just looking at an information systems, is the data itself, which you would know as information. Data is unprocessed. For example, if I just say the number 10, it's 10 what? Is it 10 rand? Is it street number 10? So on and so forth. It has no meaning. It has not been processed yet. Once it's processed, we can say, yes, okay, it's 10 rand. So we have the data, which is stored in a database. An example is Microsoft Access, which we will be starting in term 2. A process, which is to process the data. So for example, you would go into a bank and you would ask them your balance. They would run a process which would return your balance. And then finally, information, which is processed data. So it's not data, it is data that has already been processed and it has meaning. So if I say the number 10, it could be street number 10, or it could be 10 rand, or so on. That is an example of processed data. An example is Microsoft Access, which we will begin semester 2, and an example of a process is what we call a query, and at campus, for example, that could be for somebody in administration to look up a student number. Finally, we have information, and this, as I've stressed, is very important because it has been sorted. So once data is sorted, it becomes what we call processed information. And that is what we use for decision-making purposes in a company, sales targets, turnovers. The difference between data and information I have just explained now. Data is what we call raw information. It's not been sorted and it has no meaning. Data that has been sorted is information. The importance of information systems in functional areas of a business. It sounds complicated, it's not. We use an information system to run a business. An example of that would be Pastel software, which is accounting software that you use to run a small business. Information is needed by banks, for example, to function, for companies to function, for large corporations to function, even independent small traders to function. You will be using some or other information system. We use IS, or information technologies, to gain competitive advantage. To be competitive, you need information. You need to know what your competition is doing, and you need to know what is out there on the market. Even if it is as simple as going and Googling some facts in the form of research, you will get back information that will allow you or assist you to run your business. If you know what your competition is doing, you would know how to position yourself in the market. And they have used already the example, cell providers know each other's information or information about the general cellular network so that they can offer better packages than the competition. An example would be somebody at Telkom who looks up how many new customers they had that day. If it was 8,000, they can go and have a look at MTN and Cell C and Vodacom and say, okay, these people have more customers than me or less customers than me, and I make a decision to go and advertise. There is a 5 forces model and strategies for gaining competitive advantage. This is an image that I'm not going to post in this lecture. It is in the textbook, and the picture will be placed in the notes on Blackboard and WhatsApp. Review the IT job market. This will not be an examination question. It is more for the student information. If you have a look at Google under IT jobs, have a look at the names of the positions available and think about where these people position themselves in the market and what kind of IT positions are available and what they are called, so that you can get an idea of the different IT jobs and the job market that is out there and what is popular and contemporary at the moment. Summarize the future outlook of information systems. There are many answers to this, but we are a growing industry, and you may go and search for terms such as big data, business analytics, business information systems, management information systems, which will be covered in week 3. That is the basic introduction for now. I'm going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to scroll back to the beginning. Just to remind you, please realize each lesson and what you need to do each week is 4 steps. Read your weekly planner. Go through the slides as best you can. I know some of them have 51 slides, 56 slides. The slides are an addition to the book. Premium for what we need is the notes that we give you each week, which we have tried to streamline and cut down on the slides. Have a look at which slides are relevant to the note. Please attempt the theory test for the chapter, and then please go through the model answers which will be handed out. That is all for today, students. It is a very short lesson, and I welcome you to BIS, and I hope that you will have a good time. On a final note, we will also be using something called Zoom so that we can hear each other online. Please, when you get a chance or when you have the time and the data, please download the Zoom app so that your lecturers can speak to you. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.